Well, tell me a little about. I mean, I don't really know what exactly do you take care of, like the Google ads, or what is exactly that as far as marketing is concerned that you kind of handle?
Yeah, so kind of like the full process of lead generation. So, the way I look at marketing is, you have if you have a 50% retention rate, like you're never gonna grow, right? So it's like I think growing up, our retention rate was around 65, 70, 75%. It's like that's a solid rate for like a growing economy. There's customers coming into the city constantly, moving in, moving out. People getting new cars. People, and so it's like 75%. You're killing it. So it's like I do. I started with social media. It was just let's put up some posts, and then it moved into reputation management. Let's respond to reviews. Let's generate reviews, and then that kind of evolved into like local PPC or local SEO. So your website SEO, more, and then for local, it's more particularly your GBP, Google Business Profile. So kind of just like managing the whole digital presence, and then you combine that with paid ads with Google or Meta, kind of just run the whole thing.
Check all of everything. It's funny you brought up retention because we were just talking about that. We had our monthly meeting with the team this evening, and we were just talking about retention and
Yeah,
how to do that. And one of the things we did, so every vehicle that came in, we would do an inspection. We would charge for it. It was $99. It was
yeah,
actually 150 for a long time. We did a really, really in-depth inspection. It was an hour before we even touched the car. And we kind of whittled that back down to $99. And then we got to the point and said, okay, hey, look, this is what we'll do. You come in, it's $99. If you do any of the repairs that we find, we'll waive that.
yeah,
Right. And the advisors are like, we're gonna what? And my coach is like, you're gonna what? And everyone's like, you're gonna give free. And it's like,
What are you doing?
yeah, it's free. And I'm like, well, I looked at it from a marketing standpoint, right? And I'm like, our retention was like 38%. I'm like,
Oof.
yeah. I'm like, how do we fix this? Right? People just aren't coming back. And it's like, well, if they're
Yeah,
coming in having to spend money every time they come through the door, it's like, who wants to go back to that?
yeah,
I don't care
exactly.
how good you are, you know?
Yeah,
So as of this is actually marks 1 year since we started doing the no cost inspection if any repairs
yeah.
are right. We're at 56% retention now.
Okay.
Isn't that wild? And we're about 100 cars a month that we roll through the shop. So $100
Yeah,
a pop, like that's a huge chunk of change, right? Like
yeah,
that's massive. Our sales have grown. Like we went from almost 1.1 to just over almost 1.3 at the end of this year.
yeah,
So we grew, we got a higher retention rate, like, but we're discounting our service.
yeah. That's all that
It's
matters.
pretty interesting though, isn't it? Like,
That's all that matters.
yeah.
And I mean, that's why I like to educate clients about lifetime value of a client. And so I grew up in the quick lube industry, right? So my parents opened up we're changing oil, we're doing inspections, we're doing tire rotations all day long, and that was our business for the first 15 years. And then I graduated college and moved back into the business, and it was like came into this $500,000 repair addition that my brother and my father were building, and it's like, okay, like, so how do we do this business? And we're changing oil, and we're doing 3,000 cars a month, like changing oil
Wow.
and doing inspections. Yeah, like 100 cars a day, no joke. And so we joined ATI, and back then it was, Chubby still had it. I think this was back in probably 2015, 2014, maybe 2013, back 10 years ago roughly. And just doing like a multi-point inspection, our ticket average doubled like overnight. Just doing simple like callbacks and simple like we doubled our revenue with ATI with the first year. Now this is it was our situation was difficult because we have 50, 60, 70, 80 oil changes coming through our oil change bays every single day. And then people have that in their mind that like you're there for oil changes only, and we take our car for brakes somewhere else. right? We take our
Right.
car for an alternator or starter somewhere else. And so we spent just, I mean, still to this day, that location has issues like converting like the mentality of a client from quick lube to full service auto repair. But man, it's a whole different business. They're two different businesses.
It
It's
seems
wild.
like well, it seems like that's kind of a pain point for I think a lot of shops. And I've noticed a lot in the area that used to be specialized in one thing or another, kind of like putting the big sign out front that they're full auto now. And I've
Yeah.
noticed like the Lube and Go or Jiffy Lube. We
Jiffy
have
Lube.
okay, then so Jiffy Lube is a national one. We have a local Lube and Go, which is like
Hmm.
it's basically and I don't know why they it's like the exact same thing, but one's like locally owned and one's not. But
Yeah.
anyway, they've been moving more into general auto repair as well,
Yeah.
and they're trying to take on that kind of. And it's like, man, that just seems so because we went from transmission specialty to starting to market for full general auto repair, and that was probably 4 years ago,
Yeah.
which I guess isn't very long in the grand scheme of things, but I still to this day, like everyone's like, "Oh, I didn't know you do anything else than transmissions." It's
Yeah.
like I was a transmission shop for 2 years,
Like,
two
man, I've been putting
years,
this, yeah, I've
and
been
now I've
putting
been
this in
working
your face for
for
years.
for
Yeah.
four now, like twice as much time I've
Yep.
marketed as a general auto than I did with it. But it's like
Yep.
you make that first impression, and that's all that
Yep.
matters, right?
That's
It's
all that
so
matters.
interesting, man. I just,
Yeah.
ugh. But I think I,
Well, and like the, not to interrupt, but like
yeah,
the brand, so the brand of the business that my parents opened, it's called Quick Car. So it's KWIKKAR. And so it's like this fast, let's go, like let's blow and go type of like
yeah.
language. So customers are already being primed. This is like a fast, quick location. They're not we're not there for to wait an hour and a half, or this isn't a 3 hour oil change at the dealership. Like you're here for their 20-minute oil change, right? So
I think a lot of people struggle with that, though. I hear that a lot. I heard a lot
yeah,
more than I really anticipated because obviously we all think we're all in our own little bubble, and I'm like, these are just my personal problems because we were a transmission
yeah,
shop and we're moving. But it's like seems like everybody has they a vehicle comes in for brakes or a vehicle comes in for whatever that ails them, and
yeah,
then before you know it, they're like, oh. I didn't know you do everything here, right? And it just seems like everybody deals with that. No matter if you
yeah,
started as just a general auto or not, they just
yeah,
assume, right? Like they're going to be specialized in something or another. And I think it's
sure.
important to know with like with marketing, do you feel like targeting certain repairs trumps doing the broad net, or do you think casting that broad net to try to bring everybody in?
You definitely want to cast a broad net, just because there's so many terms, there's so many things that you're gonna miss if you don't. But you definitely can get more specific with it, right? Like you can get, if you replace the batteries in Teslas, right? Like Tesla battery replacement, Paso Robles, that kind of thing. Like you can get very specific with certain services. For instance, if you hire like a Ford mechanic, someone that has, dealership experience, then you can roll out some pages that's Ford repair in city, right?
Hmm.
So you can I think a good combination, good healthy combination of both is smart. So I have a bunch of quick loop clients in the DFW area, and what I tell them is like, you guys aren't going to rank for auto repair. Like your Google business profile will not rank for auto repair. Your category is oil change service, and that's what you should be trying to rank for, right? So their money services are oil changes and state inspections all day long. But then you come back in through, the back end, like a PPC campaign for the auto repair part of it, right? If they have a mechanic. So it's just kind of a combination of both. You kind of have to utilize the resources that you have. If you're like you're a transmission shop, right? So like your actual category is, there's a transmission shop category. But if you want a general auto repair, you can still rank for that. It's just gonna be harder.
Yeah,
So
I've realized our transmission is very easy to rank for because no one wants to deal with it. So it's like,
right,
even though I don't want to necessarily market for that anymore because just
right,
the word of mouth alone is enough. I still keep that campaign going because it brings in new calls, right? And it's easy. It's like a really cheap conversion because to rank number one for transmission in this area, there's like one other shop that's like
right,
even trying to compete, right? And it's like so
right.
it's like nothing. What are your thoughts on those Google ads? and being kind of held ransom that way, right? Like a lot of thing I hear from a lot of marketing agencies is the more you run with Google ads, the more they'll hold you ransom and your organic will never grow. And I see you smiling about that, so I feel like you have an opinion about it.
Well, I actually think it's kind of the opposite. I think if you're spending money with Google, and actually just talked to a marketer buddy about this today, that by spending money with Google and spending ads with them, they actually end up ranking your organic higher, because it's like,
That's interesting concept.
if it's you or the other guy, and you're actually giving them money, in another product, then what are they going to do? Like, if you had an oil change to give away, and it's your guy that's bought 5 transmissions with you versus the guy you've never seen before, like, what are you going
I
to do?
guess
You probably,
I guess it depends up to the point to when you stop spending. I guess that's the more important thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
then the moment you stop your Google Ads campaign, are you gonna just tank your ratings now? Now is everything just gonna be taken away?
No, no, no. It's definitely not that extreme. They might favor you, but they're not gonna take
Well,
your ratings
it's
just
like
because you
Yelp, right?
stop.
Like Yelp loves to do that, right? And we've all heard the
Oh,
horror stories of like holding your good reviews ransom and only
yeah,
posting the bad ones until you start paying and all that. And you just in the back of
yeah,
your mind, you're kind of wondering, like, man, if I run like $1,000 a month Google Ads campaign for 6 months and I'm doing really well, now
yeah,
I need to kind of go back a little bit, right? Because sometimes it's like I don't need any more cars, I don't need to spend any more money, but then you tailor it back a little bit. I want to get back into that in a second, but you start tailoring it back, then you're worried that your ratings are just going to drop.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know.
It's a balance. It's
Yeah.
really just a balance.
But the balance, that's what I wanted to jump back to was is stop marketing when you get busy. Do you feel like a lot of your clients have that problem? I know I did, right? Like I got to the point where we were so busy because I was so understaffed that
Hmm.
I didn't market anymore. And then 3 months down the road, I'm hurting because I'm like, where's all the cars at?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a very, I think, as a business owner, you just get so caught up in the business that you forget to like what you're actually in, right? Like you're inside of like a machine that can run with you or without you. Okay,
Mm,
that's your opportunity, right? Like, do you wanna build the empire and have it run without you? You can go to vacation, or you can start a second shop, or do your pickleball habit, like whatever it is. Like, if you work on the business, it can work. It can work without you, right? You set the standards, you train the team. Then I never. I mean, oh, man, my dad killed himself in the business, as most dads or business owners, entrepreneurs do, right? They
mhm.
absolutely killed themselves in the business, and I I like to tell people, I'm like, I have like two versions of my father. I have the 10-year-old, pre 10-year-old version of my father. Like, he was just a 9 to 5 guy. He had a good job, but never thought about it at work. Wasn't coming home just extremely exhausted. Didn't have to work on the weekends. And then post 10 years old, we open our lube center, and it's 6 days a week. And then we had a car wash at one point, and then it became 7 days a week. And it's like, at that point, like, if you're not building a strong team and you have strong management in place, like, it's gonna run your life. And so, I think the joke is our family joke growing up was like, every vacation we took, we would run into a customer. Doesn't matter if it was the Caribbean or the mountains somewhere, like, we would run into a customer everywhere. It was just like, we can't escape this business. And then I don't know what it is about managers, but they get the balls to quit their job when the owner is on vacation. So a lot of our trips were interrupted with quitting
Man,
managers, and things just like falling apart. Like, as soon as you leave, you're like, what the hell? Like, you thought you had things figured out. Oh, it's business.
yeah, it is such a I think a lot of people can relate to that, right? That whole lifestyle is just you know what it is too is you should be excited when you run into like your clients and customers, right? Like it
Right.
should be something you're grateful for, and
Right.
unfortunately in those kinds of situations you're not because you're trying to escape it when you're instead of like I
Yeah.
don't know. We had a we went to where were we going? It was I think a trip to Ireland, and we were standing in line in LAX in an international terminal deep right, and we ended up running into a client, and they were going to Barcelona or something like that, and it was just so I'm like really like, but
Yep.
but I mean I love seeing this guy like he's a great dude. He comes
Yeah.
in, spends
Yeah.
whatever, and like he afforded our trip right, and so I seen him. We sat there and hung out and shot the shit for an hour while we were waiting in
Yeah.
security. So it was just cool to see when you bring that up. That's what it reminded me of because it's like I know a lot of time especially in the early years, you try to avoid it. You see someone in the grocery store, right,
Yeah.
or something like,
You're
or
like,
you
oh, what
just you go to the grocery store like
yeah,
2 towns over just to make sure you're
yeah,
not going to run into anybody. And it's like you get to the point, and it's kind of nice to like run into the people that help. You know, you're like, oh, hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
yeah,
And you're not
yeah.
so worried about them saying like, hey, so the last time I came in, right? Like,
Right,
oh
right.
my god.
Yeah, exactly.
But
And then, I mean, if you have a business to be proud of, like, then those are the kind of conversations you don't need to worry about. Like, it's like,
right,
our philosophy was like, we're never going to be perfect, but like our family owns this facility, and as long as we own this facility, we're always going to make it right.
yeah.
So it's, you
I
know,
think it's like a mental shift too, right? Like you tried to be too perfect in the beginning, and then so you take everything way too personally, and I think you just get to
yeah,
the point, like, you just understand that you're gonna make mistakes, but hey, I'm gonna take care of it. Like, even if you ran
yeah,
into him, you're like, hey, the last time I came, I'm like, dude, thank you so much for letting me know. Like, that's really
yeah,
valuable to me, and I appreciate you letting me know. Let me get you in, on Monday. Just bring it in. Do you want to make an appointment? No, no, you just get it into
sure,
me. Come ask for me on Monday, and I'm gonna make it right. Like,
yeah,
it's just that mental shift of like not being so concerned that everything's
yeah,
just gonna fall apart because you made one mistake.
exactly.
It's
And I
wild.
mean, even today, like, it's like, if you know the name of somebody at a business, like, that's wild. Like, when I grew up in the business, that was normal. Like, people would show up and talk to my dad, and like their car would be parked out front and ready to go for, an hour ago, and they're just still just chatting with my dad. It's like that's just how he grew the business. It's just
Yeah.
talking to people and just
Yeah.
developing those relationships. So it's like, as long as there's someone there that's like here to handle the problems, then we're good.
Speaking of, I mean, consider we're talking about marketing, and I think that's a valuable aspect of it. Do you think that networking aspect is kind of lost a little bit in this day and age of like the electronic this and the feedbacks and the surveys you give people and the automated texts and all that? Do you think we're losing a little bit of that, like your dad had, where you just go out there and you just spend 30 minutes talking to somebody?
I mean, yeah, for sure. We've definitely. I think it's like gone. Like, it's not coming back. I I have this thing with my son. Like, I try to limit the iPad time, right? But it's like, he's never gonna have the childhood that I had. And,
Right.
it's like you have this nostalgia about like riding your bikes to your friend's house, or, whatever it was, but that we just live in a different world now. So it's like you try to preserve what you can preserve, but then at the end of the day, like, it's, I never had a $70 million mega computer in the '70s, like, in my pocket, when I
Right.
was 10. So it's like it's insane. So
Do you think that's like a Do you think clients are still wanting that though? Do you think when they show up, like the convenience of being able to approve something on your phone, right? Like
yeah,
you can set the appointment, you can drop your car off, you don't have to talk to
yeah.
them, but you can pay over your phone, and then they leave the keys, and then you're gone, right? I mean, that's convenient and all, but do you think that's like a lost art where if another they go to another shop and someone like comes up to them and is like, "Hey, just come in, I need to shake your hand," or "We don't
Yeah,
do everything totally electronic. I need you to come in. We need to have a conversation for 10
yeah.
minutes before we vet you as a client," right?
Here's this clipboard. Please fill this out with a pen. And I'm like, what? Yeah.
That's a little extreme, but
Whoa, calm down. Like, what are
calm
you
down with
doing?
the calm down with the pencil and the pens here.
Yeah. I mean, as unfortunately like it sounds like, it's we're replacing like the human experience like every step of the way. Like, with AI, you're gonna be calling. You're going to be calling places and not having to talk to a single person. They're going to be able to handle like all your. I mean, I'm experimenting with some of that stuff now. Like, you can't answer your phone calls, like, then someone's going to answer it. It's going to
Mhm.
be my little AI bot, but someone's going to answer your call. It's not going to be your competitor.
Right.
Like, so that's kind of where I start usually, is uh, answering your phone calls. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't have a way to record your phone calls and audit them, then I wouldn't spend a dollar more on marketing until you do that.
That's an interesting thing too. I mean, I think it's probably missed a lot, right?
Yeah,
Because even if you're spending money, how do you know it's being converted?
yeah. I mean, the and it's usually, I mean, I can't tell you how many, like, we were a busy shop, so we had to have a cashier, right? And so while the techs are working, the cashiers are cashing out customers. They're doing customer service, and they're answering the phone call. So you're having, usually, the least the least expensive person in the facility, like the least trained and the
Mm,
least cost to you as a business owner is like the basically the front of your business online. And you don't really, no one really thought about that in '08, 2012. Like you're not really thinking that this like digital presence, all this funnels into this phone number, and this is like this $8 an hour high school graduate who doesn't know shit about cars. Like you, so it's like how can you remove the friction, right? Like so your websites have like all the commonly frequently asked questions and all that. Starting hours are all over the place. Your
yeah, but
address.
you're expecting people to actually read that shit too, right? Like the people just gonna
Sure,
call. Like I don't read that stuff, right?
sure,
Where's the damn phone number? I just need to call
sure.
somebody.
So when you do call, then you need to be like your team needs to be prepared to like not only say who you are, to like yes we can handle your problem, and whether you however how you want to answer that, that's just needs to be the goal, right? Like you can
Hmm.
actually solve my problem. And then three, like get them booked into a time like right then. It's so many. I've heard. I just listen to recordings, constantly, and it's just like they do the first two right. Hey, how you doing? This is Christian. I'm with such and such automotive. What can we do for you? Great. Yes, we can certainly take care of that. We're open from 8 to 6. Whenever you're ready to come in, come see us. Oh, okay, great. I'll see you soon. It's like no, like book them in, take down their name, take down their number, maybe get their email, send them your little online booking link, whatever whatever it is, auto ops, or I know you use auto ops. Um, it's like just like that's the process. Like that's you're completing the sell,
Right.
right? And you're
Yeah.
taking their information down, and that person could be they could be seeing your little $10 off social media post about your oil change. They could be googling brake repair city location, right, and clicking on your link, or they could be clicking on your $6 CPC ad for whatever. Like all of those channels funnel down to whoever answers the phone. And so it's like that person needs the most training in the shop.
Well,
If you think about it,
step one, make sure someone is there to at least answer the phone. So at
step
least
one, answer the phone.
so at least give them a little credit that the phone's
Yes,
actually being answered, right? So
yes, yes,
congratulations, you hired someone to actually answer the phone. Okay, now
yes,
step two, let's get someone that's a little bit better.
yes. But it's just like the constant like Dave's Auto, and it's like you're hearing banging in the back, and it's just like constant. Like nobody today wants to call up a shop and hear all that. Like the ratchets going. It's just like whew. Like you need a office environment. You need no one's yelling at the service advisor. Where the hell are my parts? Like there's none of that. You're a professional business, and you should treat if you want professional results, you should treat your customers that way. So
It is pretty remarkable when I go through listening to phone calls and when I answer the phone occasionally and how I can just and I have my mic set up, so I use this mic for my call center. Like if I get a call, it rings through this mic to my headset, and I pick
nice.
them. Hey, this is Jimmy Purdy with Shifting Gears Auto Repair. How can I help you? Just like that, right? And it just every time it's just like a pause. Are you there? Oh yeah, I just
Yep.
it's like I didn't expect this. Expect what? That's like, oh, it just sounds so nice.
So it's just
I
this is
haven't
just
even
this
said
is
anything.
normal. Like
Yeah.
this is what I expected, but I didn't expect it. Like
Right, and
it's
then I set
yeah,
the timer, right? So the one thing we work on too is make sure you try to keep that phone call under 15 minutes, preferably around 12, like, but that's even a long time.
yeah.
And you just try to, because sometimes these phone calls will go 20 minutes, and I'm looking at some
Wow.
of these phone calls, and I'm like, 20 minutes? What the hell's going on here? So
Yeah.
obviously, I don't want to set the expectation of like a 4-minute phone call. Like
Yeah.
you get time, like, and most of the time, if I set it at 12, it usually ends at like 7 or 8. Like,
Yeah.
but if I say, "Hey guys, I need you guys to be off the phone within 4 to 6 minutes," which I think is like a pretty typical time,
Hmm.
it just seems rushed. So it's like, no, just set the stage like you got some time. And I've noticed most of mine will say around that 10-minute mark, but it just explain to them, hey, this is the process, this is what you do, and it's like, yeah, man, you've just been really helpful. I really appreciate you, whether they come in or not, whether I book that or not. It's always
Yeah.
I just really appreciate like you taking the time and like explaining things to me. This is the first job I call where everyone actually explained to me exactly what was going to
Yeah.
happen. It was like, wow, and that took me less than 10 minutes.
Right. and then they'll throw $6,000-7,000 on a new transmission and be your customer for life. Like
Hopefully,
it's
and it's one of those things like maybe if not today, now, but maybe later, or you know what, maybe they got a friend because that'll stick in their mind. Like they
yeah,
just had a 10-minute conversation that was pleasant with something
yeah,
they thought that wasn't going to be. So they're like, you know
right,
what, I called the shop and they were like really nice. Maybe try them. I don't know.
yeah,
It's those things you never know. Like just like with the retention thing we talked to started the episode with. It's like those things are like I never really thought I just looked for my ROI, right? Like, how do I
hmm
make sure each dollar makes me $3? Like, that
yeah,
was the goal. Cause you read the books, right? And the people tell you, like, if you're spending $1, you need three. Like,
yeah,
no ifs, ands, or buts. And at the end of the month, make sure that you get your ROI back and you get your return on your investment. And it's like there's so much more intangible things that are going on that like that really blinds people. And I just don't like that. I mean, I get it when you
yeah,
start, you need to make sure like shit is tight. Like, so make sure you're getting your money back. But also like there's some intangibles there where you can kind of fold into it that like I don't
yeah,
even fully understand yet, but I'm getting aware of them.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just wild. A lot of things that, especially when it comes to marketing, man.
Well, and everybody
Like,
has like like there's it's we have the shop we had. So we had well, it was my parents' shop, right? So we had it for 20 years. And then my brother and I decided to start our own franchise while running our parents' location. And so 2 miles down the road, we purchased this other quick lube center, and it was this this branded just whoever's auto repair shop. So we came up with our own brand logo, like rebranded it and everything, remodeled the facility. It was doing like $350,000 a year. Like it was just this couple brothers just like working out of a shop, right? And just the demographic difference from 2 miles down the road it was wild. Like the types of customers that we were seeing 2 miles north were completely different. So it's like, yeah, like what could work in your shop could be completely different. Like it what works in my shop. It's just you have to take into account a lot of factors for sure.
is it like trial and error, right? Where you just gotta like, you gotta spend some money, you know?
Yeah.
Right? I
Okay,
mean,
I'm
kind of
so glad
like,
you said that. I'm so glad you said that. Like, yeah. Like, how many times have you talked to Eric about showing up late? Like, you've probably had that conversation 5 or 6 times. You think you can do one everything one time and just work? Like, and I think marketing is the same way. You could run this $10 off oil change thing on Facebook, but no one might click on it, right? But then you run something else that's the equivalent of $10 off. Maybe it's a free brake check or whatever, whatever it is, and it,
and
it, it hits.
and just like you
So,
said, the guy, the county over, town over, hey man, this is really working for me. Or on the other side of the nation, hey, we did this special and it really worked, and you try it and it doesn't work. I
right,
mean, and to your point, like how many times does your wife tell you to take the trash out before you actually take the trash out? Like,
right. I think the golden example for this in our industry is mailers. So
ooh, I want to talk about mailers. Yes.
before we get into Facebook ads, before all that stuff came through, it was, well, how do we find your customers? Well, you just mail them something. So it's like we did mailers for, I don't know, the first 10 or 15 years of our business, and I was like, first you have to actually track it, okay? And so I think people don't put in the forethought, the effort to actually train their employees that when this piece of paper comes in, you're putting in tracking code, OC10 or whatever it is, right? To
Hmm.
like see if this actually works. So like that's half the battle is just getting the conversion tracking to even work and your people to
Dude,
even
that's a
to
great point.
to
Yeah.
do it to begin with. Because how many coupons have you created? If you're anything like our business, we had a screen of like 30 different coupons of 30 different marketing campaigns over the years. And it's like 5, 10, $3, this, that, and the other. And you're a like, sorry to say it, but you're an $8, $10 an hour cashier. You're just like $10 off. I'm clicking that one, right? Like there was no like true. This is the actual coupon. So can you really get an ROI on that? It's hard. It's hard.
And then you got the guys that spout off that, oh, I tried mailers and it never worked for us.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Then you ask them those difficult questions and they're like, did I
Yeah.
what? I just
Yeah.
know that I didn't get busy.
Yeah. It's like this anecdotal, like, this anecdotal evidence of like, oh, that didn't work for me. Like, so it definitely doesn't work. It's like,
I
okay,
had
how
10 more, I
many?
had like 10 more cars that month, so it was nothing. Like, what about all the
Yeah,
ones that sit on the counter for 6 months and they're like, or on the fridge,
yeah,
right? Like, and
yeah.
the other thing's like putting a date. That was a big one that I learned, was putting a date or an expiration date on your coupons.
Hmm.
Do you find that to be what's your kind of like thought on that?
Sense of urgency is a very powerful marketing tactic. So a lot of the Google ads I create, I have like, we have an offer, right? But it's like today only. Well, it runs every day, but for today only. So it's just,
Free beer tomorrow?
yeah. I mean, you just if it's anything that kind of create a sense of urgency in the customer, I think
Right.
is works. Now we had like I said, we had a car wash location around the corner, kind of. So all of our oil changes were getting free car washes. Well, those coupons, the reason you said expire, we had an expiration on those, but it was like a month or something, right? Because like we want them to cross promote our other business, within a relatively short amount of time. But then we had so many complaints of like, oh, this is out of whatever. It's been in my glove box for 6 months. Can you honor it? Can you honor it? It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, like you've spent the money. Like, I don't want to say no. Like you are my
Right.
customer. So yeah, I would say most things require a sense of urgency, but some things are.
I wonder if there's nuances or certain repairs that would work better for that, right? Where, like
Yeah,
you said, with the brake service or the brake special, like you do like a, you know, or oil change special even. Like most people like doesn't mean, oh, it's a discount oil change, even though I got it 3 weeks ago. I'm gonna go back and do it now because it's a good deal. Like I don't, it doesn't like work that way, right?
no,
There-
no,
There's like you got to hit the timeline, right? It's like
yeah,
you do the 1 day only oil change special. It's like, well,
yeah,
how many people does that need to hit to actually cross that threshold of like they're due for an oil service right now and they're
right,
looking, and like it just doesn't make sense, right? Where you can like extend an oil change discount for like 6 months or a year. That way you're capturing
yeah,
more people.
yeah,
It's interesting to look at those kind of things.
yeah. I was always like, I can't. If I want Chipotle, I can go get that every day, but can't really do that with an oil with an oil change. It wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Like, wow, that's
So
$20 off. I just
like
got one yesterday, but
like
I'll get
even
another
if
one
they
today.
gave you a free oil change every day, you still wouldn't want to go do that, right? Like
Right, right. With the time it
so.
takes. Yeah, with
And
mailers. So, what's that?
well, yeah, and then to kind of bring it back full circle is like when you say people stop advertising when it's busy, it's like, well, that's the whole reason you should not stop advertising is because
Yeah,
when they see your stuff, they might not need it, but then the next time they see it, they've already seen the last two or three, you know, and then they'll buy it. Like there's all kinds of statistics about points of contact and how many times somebody needs to see your brand in order to interact with it, and it's
right.
not one time, it's not once. Like
It's that overwhelm thing, right? Where you're just so overwhelmed. You're like, no more marketing. I don't need any more
yeah,
cars. I'm done. Like, and
yeah,
I think that's a more of a psychological mental shift than really like, but keep
sure,
marketing because it's gonna get slow
sure.
again. I wanted to,
I
so I want to
mean,
go circle back to that marketing or the mailers. What's your thought on using a company for that or doing it on your own through like the postal service?
mm, well, I
'Cause-
think now they're getting a lot more sophisticated with their lists. I think you used to just buy like a zip code and that was it, right? Like, and now they're able to like to get you better lists. So I guess it depends. Like, if the company is able to give you like a better like demographic. Because when we used to do it back in the shops, it was these large blasts that like across the whole city, and it wasn't very like sophisticated, right? And now you can like target neighborhoods, you can target this, you can run multiple offers, you can split test this, you can split test that. So it's a little more, what I would tell people is like,
Right. Yeah.
try it, but
Yeah.
like, don't just try one campaign and stop and say it didn't work.
That's
Like,
true.
you have to keep doing it. Like, if your loss leader oil change thing didn't work, okay, then let's move up the ladder and let's go somewhere in the middle. Like, and let's keep going up the ladder. You keep trying new things, right? Like, you never. It's just there's no silver bullet, really.
See what works. The one thing I was looking at is actually going through my own demographics and knowing the town that you're in and being able to say, I know this neighborhood. Like it's kind of like trick or treating when you're really young, right? Like you know the rich neighborhoods, so you know where you get the good candy bars. So I was looking at mailers kind of the same way, right? Like I know that neighborhood, I know the cars that are parked around that area, and those are
Yeah.
the ones I like. And I feel like a lot of the companies don't really go that deep which I can't
Mm-mm.
really expect them to, right? So you
Mm-mm.
look on the USPS has their, you can kind of set up your own mailers, but oh my, it just seems like a lot. Like it's a lot of
Yeah.
work, and it's like, well, I'll just pay a company to do it. But you kind of miss that nuanced personal touch that you can give to it. So
Yeah.
it's one of the things I was looking into. And it's like, again, like radio, like everyone says radio doesn't work. Man, we've had fantastic results with radio,
Yeah.
but I conduct all my own commercials. So it's like, who's doing the work, right? Like who's doing the thing to make it work, right? Like it just
Yeah.
it's
It's
really disheartening to hear the negativity when it comes to marketing and the things that will never work. That hasn't worked in years.
it's yeah, it's just like I think like the easy answer to all these questions are always like it depends. Does that work? I don't know. It depends. It depends. Can you answer the phone? I don't know. It depends. Can your guy send them an appointment booking link to get them in? Like I could send you 10 leads tomorrow with Google ads if we have the budget. But can you actually answer all the calls and get them to the process?
And then
And it's like,
can you tell me that they came from Google because you're asking?
right. Or, I track all that. So it's like it's just nice when you're able to see like they clicked on a brake service ad, it cost them $5. Well, Jimmy answered the call, but in 30 seconds that he talked to them, he failed to do XYZ, and so they just lost not only the $5 you spent on that call, but you lost $1,000 job that could have done or whatever it is. So it's
Right.
like you can turn on you can do a $5,000 a day budget in advertising for a shop, but if they can't answer the phone and convert, then it's like, what's the point? So,
That's
so I
very
always
true.
want I always want to get the I always like want the conversion metrics to kind of work first before you really turn on the faucet. Um, and I mean, you kind of see that at shops kind of north of like $1 million. Like they kind of have at least a basic level process down. They're able to do a complete DVI. They're able to call customers back. They're able to, they road test their vehicles. Their comeback rates are extremely low. Like their Google reviews are 4.5 or higher. Like there's a certain threshold of kind of results that they've been able to get to so far, and then you can just turn the faucet on and blow the place up because the systems are already there. And
Interesting.
that was the first thing. The actual first conversation we had with our ATI coach 10 years ago, he says, you do not need more cars. You have plenty of cars. He says, you need a better process. I'm like, what the hell? What do you mean a better process? We want to make more money. We need more cars. And he goes, no, your ticket average is whatever it was back then, $300.
Two, I was
You
like
need it.
$250. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You need a better process. Or like, well, you need to charge for your diags. Like, what? We have to charge for diags? We give those away. Well, yeah. Like, well, do you want to? So it's like it's the whole like we do the things the way we do them because that's the only way we know how to do them problem versus
Mhm.
like keeping an open mind and
I
realizing
I
that.
remember my first free Diag coupon when I first took over. I just like I remember that. I remember, we just hooked the scan tool up, checked codes, checked
Yep.
identifics, whatever, and came up with like some sort of general idea. And then we were able to kind of like fold in like the next steps to confirm the repair, right? I remember the
Yep.
whole process and everything I wrote together. And I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? I was like, oh, I'm freaking figured it out. I'm a marketing genius. Free Diags.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna come flooding in, right? I think
Yeah.
it's interesting is like it kind of reverts back to that, and it goes back to your comment about systems and like answering the phone and making sure all that. So now you get these bigger shops that are MSOs and they're getting back into like that free diag and the loss leader oil change stuff, right? And it's
Hmm.
really interesting to like not just like kick it to the curb and say, no, that doesn't work. There's no way. You guys don't know what you're doing. Like, no, they know what they're doing. They're like multi-million-dollar MSOs, right? And so they're doing free diags, but they're able to track everything and they have the system
Yep.
set up to actually capitalize on everything. And like these things work, but just like you said, you have to have that system put in place to monitor, track it, and make sure like at
Yeah.
the end of the month you're not losing your ass. So it's really interesting when it comes to that stuff to like see how it comes full circle, right? Like it's not that it was a bad idea, you just sucked at implementing it, right? Like that's the bottom line.
Exactly.
Most marketing ideas I think
Exactly.
are pretty good, like because most
Yeah.
people are pretty creative about it. They just don't have the systems or processes, and they suck at implementing it, and then they lose their
Yeah.
ass with it.
Exactly.
You gotta be good.
It, it's like I really enjoy like automating things, and then I really am enjoying the AI revolution and kind of where that's taking us. And so it's like, what can I do as a like the tech guy, the marketer, that can eliminate like the human element, the human component of the mistakes that your shop is making, right?
Hmm.
And maybe they're not even mistakes, but it's like a shortcut. So for instance, a customer calls from a Google ad, and instead of like you, Jimmy, from Shifting Gears, oh, by the way, our location's at 123. What, like instead of all that, like having to tell the customer, take down my address or type this in, they're automatically getting like a notification of the shop, like as a contact card, right? It's like Shifting Gears Automotive. Here's your address, whatever, and that's just from the moment you call the shop, right? So if you, as a shop owner, knows that this is a Google ad, then you know that they've already received, hey Jimmy, like, yeah, so we can take care of that problem for you. Oh, by the way, you should have received a text that has, could you confirm with me that you received a text with our address? Oh yeah, yeah, great. Okay, perfect. That's our location. We're open from 8 to 5 today.
Hmm.
When can we get you in,
Like a
right?
like a Google
So
Maps link, huh?
yeah, yeah, and it just takes resistance. I think I liked taking resistance out of the equation. The more resistance you take, it's like the more successful you're going to be. Like if they call up and they, how many times did they say like, hey, is this a competitor, right? So hey, is this Jiffy Lube? Like, no, this isn't actually Jiffy Lube. However,
We can
we
help you.
are.
Yeah.
Here is the opportunity for you to then say who you are, how long you've been in business, whatever, family owned, right? And so it's like that's part of the training. It's like, okay, like Jimmy took 20 calls last week and he converted 18 of them to a booked call, right? Like, and if you monitor stuff like that, then when you market, then when you actually hire the agency, then you're spending the $2,000 a month in Google ads. You're spending on the SEO. You're throwing money at that. Then when they call the shop that you're going to handle that lead
Yeah.
properly. So
Yeah, if you're not tracking it, you would have no idea. Make sure the processes are in place to do it.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that'd be one of the things I've noticed takes a long time is on the intake is getting the client's information. And
yeah,
I like that idea of having that Google Maps link sent, but I like it on the other side too, where and that's where like auto ops and like the online schedulers, you get that information, they type it in. So when you have the phone call, it's more to the brass tacks, right? Like you
yeah.
already have the customer profile set up, they got all the pertinent information. Now you can just get down like, hey, what's going on with the car? Hey, oh, you live out there? Yeah, my mom lives out there, by that area. You just like build that personal relationship instead of spending 4 or 5 minutes like, what lane
Right,
was that? Like,
right.
it's 456, or what'd you
Yeah,
say? Like, and you're trying to get this address from someone, and it takes like 3 to 4 minutes to just get their freaking address and their
exactly.
last name spelt and their phone number. Make
Exactly.
sure they're
Yeah.
good with texting, and you're okay with me.
Like, dude, you have to eliminate all of that from the phone conversation.
Yes, yes, 100%, 100%. And even though it's part of a conversation that needs to be had, there's better things that you can talk about.
Better things to do with your time.
Do you have
And
the
and
license
you're
plate number? Oh, let me go get it. Okay,
and
and
like
then you're waiting like, well, it's outside of my parking lot. I'm going out. No, no, you don't need it. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I don't need you walking out to the street right now to get your license plate number
yeah,
off the car.
right. Yeah. And then like it's then you could risk like alienating such a large like anybody over 60 or 70, right, who hasn't had a phone in their hand their whole life. Like they're like you can just listen to calls and know like the type of person. Oh well, they act like there's just so much like you can hear like the angst in their voice when they're trying to figure out like where you're located. Oh, is that by the highway? Like like no, ma'am. Just open your phone and we've already sent you the address. Just click the link and you're good to go. Like that's all it should be, right? Like eliminate. And then I think some of my clients here, like when they don't have the opportunity to track that to get that text sent automatically, then they have TechMetric open and they send, I think like a shop tour video, and like as the first text, it's like, hey man, like thanks for calling. I just sent you our shop tour video to your phone number. it's just a little bit about us, so you know where you're coming to, blah 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 blah, and it's just like kind of like a welcome thing.
Hmm,
That's kind of cool.
that is slick.
So when you have the opportunity to hang up the phone and call your 10 other competitors within 5 seconds, like you have to convert them right then,
Yeah.
right then.
Oh yeah.
Get them on the schedule, get their name, like get their number, and convert them. And then the people that are making the real money in this industry, like when that lead doesn't show up, they're calling them back, right? They're figuring out why. And I think that's one thing that not many people do is call people back.
Yeah.
Is have this follow up system.
Think two sides to that. One, just not having the system of the process, and I think two is just writing them off, right? And I do
Yeah,
it. I think I had 2 calls this week that I've or last week that I answered, and they were just calling around for pricing. Like,
sure.
I need to replace I think a hybrid battery. I don't remember what it was. And I'm like, "What? Well, I mean, why do you need a price on a hybrid battery, right?" And I went through the whole thing, and let's get you in, and I just want to let you know we're not the most, we're not going to be the cheapest option. And if that's what you're looking for, I got a phone number of someone you can call. He's a good friend of mine. He owns a shop, in the next town over. And if you want his number, like that's going to be your cheapest option. And I would trust him with my own car if that's what you're looking for, right? And so I gave her that, and it was like, but let me tell you about what we do. And we go in the whole sales pitch and all that, and got her profile, and okay, I'll call you back if I want to make an appointment. And it was like at that point in time, it was like, do I push this conversion or is this going to be a drain on the shop? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? To get down to the
yeah,
brass tacks of it, like, is this really my customer or is it not my customer? And
right,
that's where for me is like, so do I call this lead back or do I just move on? Right? I got a shop full, like, but I can always use one more.
sure,
Like, but then also,
sure,
like, do I need to really tie up the office with someone that's just going to eventually not go forward with anything? So that's a tough thing to try to figure out too on, an 8-minute phone call. Like,
yeah,
and obviously, I think I got to be more optimistic and just assume that we're going to, it's going to be a sale at the end of the day, or we're going to be able to help this lady out with the battery to her vehicle. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it has nothing to do with the hybrid battery. Like, I still don't know exactly what's wrong with the damn car.
yeah.
So it's like,
Well, Jimmy, that's why I challenge you to turn those 8-minute phone calls into 2-minute phone calls and just get the car in the shop.
yeah, you're right. Yep.
Like you don't know until you see the car, right? Like
You're right. Yeah.
you can spend 10 minutes building a relationship all you want, but if you don't have the car in front of you, then
You know what? That's a good point, though. I mean, that is definitely one of the shifts that needs to happen moving forward, right? As we get phone calls and we get busier, it's like you're coming in or you're not coming in, and then
yeah,
and then we'll let the rest kind of the chips fall as they may at the end of the day, right? Whatever happens,
sure,
happens. I just feel like putting someone in an inconvenient position is what my instinct is, or like what I feel right now is like getting someone in that's not going to wants to buy into our process.
yeah,
And I think maybe I can relate to a lot of other owners that are listening right now in that thought of like, well, I want to make sure I'm vetting this client to make sure when they come in, we're on the
yeah,
same page. I don't want them showing up and then realizing we're someone that they didn't expect. Does that make
right,
sense?
yeah,
So it's a tough thing, but I mean, you're right. At the end of the day, you got to just convert it. You got to get them in. You got to wow them
yeah,
with your service, and you got to understand that if they go anywhere else, they're gonna get screwed over. So their only logical safe choice is just to come to me.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
egotistical? Is that too much?
No, no, no. I mean, like, uh, I think the best piece of marketing is probably your test drive. And what do I mean by that? Is
Yeah.
like
What do you mean by that?
is is you do a test drive and to eliminate comebacks, right? So whatever your process is to eliminate comebacks, that's your best marketing piece of advice. Is is if like we were I was okay. I'll just give you an example. We were at the point where there's constant tech turnover. You know, general managers are leaving, techs are leaving. You're constantly bringing in new guys to kind of stabilize the place, right? I think we've all kind of been through certain periods of time where you've had technician turnover that really cost the shop a lot of money. But it's like, should I spend time and money turning on all those faucets that we've been talking about for 50 minutes if my technician can't even push the car out on time, right? Like So they're having comebacks. It's so quality work essentially is kind of what I'm getting at. It's like
Hmm.
you can throw money at the wall 20 different ways with marketing, but the biggest thing is just put out a quality product.
That's true. Yeah.
And like you said, talk to people.
Yeah. I don't.
This is Jimmy's place. This is Jimmy's business. I know Jimmy's gonna take care of me, kind of thing.
Right. Another lost art, maybe. No, I think most got that point. I think a lot of shops, no matter where they are, what they're
Yeah.
doing, I think they're striving really hard to do that to a fault. I think is what
Mm,
the issue is, right?
yeah.
Like we have a QC process and we work on it all the time. And I spent way too much time on these vehicles. I'd have 3 people look at it before it left because I was so
Ooh.
worried about,
Yeah.
so dialing that back, right, and having maybe another set of hands, or just making sure that only certain repairs, so only repairs with HPRO over 3 go into QC
Hmm.
now. So it's like really just dividing and like, okay, those cars that come in for an oil change, they don't need a QC. Like if
Yeah.
it comes back with greasy handprints, we're just having a conversation with the tech. Like, bro, we don't do that here, right? Like, get your shit
Yeah.
together, right?
We buy you gloves for a reason. Come on.
Yeah, dude. Like, come on, it was an oil change. You shouldn't be screwing that up,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and then knowing like, okay, which repairs do we really need to check over? And a lot of them, if the wheel comes off, that needs an extra QC to make sure we're retorquing wheels and just
Right.
writing that stuff down. Like, it's so much gray to be like to walk in and be like,
Yeah.
this is what we're doing now. Like, no, that's not gonna work. It's too much.
And
Dial it back.
there's nothing more humbling than running like a multi-million dollar business, and you're like thinking you got things figured out, and then like a Google review rolls in, and it's like a greasy handprint on somebody's like Ford that just rolled out like an hour ago, and you're like, oh, come on. You're like, man, we do everything right, and then this guy just leaves his handprint on this door, and you're just like, oh, it's like killer.
I'm
Come
gonna
on.
go strangle somebody right now.
Come on. Like it's not even anything about the car like working. It's just a cosmetic thing, but
Right.
it's what they see, right? You're like,
Oh yeah.
how many people touched this car before the customer did that didn't see the handprint, you know?
Right.
And then
Right.
that's a culture thing. Like, is there a culture of not my job in your company? Man,
Yeah, that that
it's
yeah, that could go on for a long time to that'll irk a lot of people right there. Because it happens
oof,
all the time. Or the hats with the headliner, right? They hit the greasy thing on the
yeah.
headliner,
Oh yeah.
and you
Oh
write
yeah.
the stuff down, and you have weekly meetings about it, and then it still goes out for some reason. You're like, "What the hell's the matter with you guys, man?"
Yeah. Yeah. Or even just like, if you're writing on the windshield like your numbers or whatever for just stupid stuff like that. Like you didn't wipe the windshield off before the it's just ugh.
Well,
You do
even worse.
99% of the repair is complete, and there's one little tiny thing. It's like it matters. It does not matter at all, but that's what the customer's looking at as soon as they get in their vehicle. They can see.
Well, and the thought that's worse than that is all the ones that the people don't say anything, and they just don't come back because that
They
one
just all
little
come
thing.
back. Yeah,
Like, bless their heart for leaving me a review, to be
yeah.
honest, right?
Or at
Like,
least,
thank you for, like,
at
letting me
least,
know.
yep.
Because who knows how many they were like, "Oh, I'm not going back there." They have greasy footprints all over my floor mat. Like, no one told me, like, "Oh, I didn't wanna be a bother. I just went somewhere else." Like, "Oh, that's so much worse."
Exactly.
Well, getting down to the end of this, I wanna ask you, so with your process, so you went through and evaluated our shop, which is fantastic. You did, I mean, like we were saying before we jumped on here, it was like a very in-depth and thorough video. I really appreciated that. Is that your general is that kind of how you start the process, or how do you take over? Or what exactly could we expect if we decided to bring you on as a marketing company?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is just to have a conversation, and I think that's what we did is just to figure out like if you're a $5 million shop, you've probably got most of the things that I offer figured out, right? But if you're a $500,000 shop or a $1.5 million shop, or even there's probably some things we can improve on. So an audit, like I just like to do audits because it's such like a tangible piece of evidence that a business owner, a shop owner could look, and you're not really looking at your presence every day, or maybe you do look at it every day, but you miss something. I think a guy the other day, like he had his old location was still on his website, but he transferred locations, and it's just stuff like a fresh perspective. Looking at your digital presence is, take it for it could be eye opening, really. Some people think they have it all figured out, and then you show them a little 5 minute video. You're like, well, there's like 6 things I would do right now that you could change that could drive more business, and it's So yeah, I mean, it's just about having a conversation first to see if if you're even open to if you're the type of business owner that's even open to like growing their shop to begin with, instead of just like having a closed mindset, I've got it all figured out, like I don't need your help type of thing.
That's a
Uh,
good point.
and then just talk. Are you doing this? No. Are you doing that? No. Okay, well, these are a couple opportunities I see. Reviews I think are probably number one. Like if you're a shop owner that has no way of generating reviews consistently, for number one, and then responding to them, then that's like the number one thing you could probably do as a business owner. Generate them. Most CRMs nowadays do the generation for you,
Hmm.
right? Like they're sending out the emails, they're sending out the text messages. So if you don't have a CRM that's doing that for you, like I would even suggest just get the CRM that can do that, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I can make you one, but there's other integrated features out there that are integrating with all these shop management systems that will do it for you. So it's like I like have like like half my philosophy is like best practices that I've seen in the industry work for me as a business owner when I used to have a shop, and then what's working now is like as a marketing agency. Where were we going?
The CRM, the reviews.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So generating reviews. If you do not have a way of generating consistent reviews for your shop, that is what I would recommend fixing like
Yeah,
immediately.
that was one of the things you brought up too, because I get and I have a pretty good system about going through and checking my boxes and make sure. We had like 5 reviews that I had let slip before I responded to them. Right, all
Yeah.
5-star, of course, but what's one thing is like I go and if I get one, it's like I just wait till I get 2 or 3, and then I'll go in that way I can like just respond to a
Sure.
few at a time and chunk them out.
Yeah.
But I totally
Yeah.
like I was like, oh, I totally forgot I needed to do that.
Yeah. I think it's and I think what's interesting is everybody has different challenges in terms of like if you're just a single shop owner, you're probably not getting a negative review every day. But if you're a shop owner of like 8 locations, you're probably getting a negative review every day from
Yeah.
one of your locations. So like sending that review to like the person that needs it most so they can try to save the customer, save the experience,
Hmm.
instead of like responding 2 weeks later because you never saw it type of thing.
So
So it's just
you talked about monitoring and tracking. Do you go through and you track the phone calls with your marketing, or do you have like is there
yeah.
packages or exactly what could anyone expect if they decided to reach out to you?
Yeah, so as part of my packaging, we have SEO packages, we have PPC packages, and then we kind of like bundle it all together. And a part of that PPC package, both components have the kind of like the auditing attached to it. So it looks like a phone tracking number, and we're sticking it on our Google Ads, or a phone tracking number, and we're sticking it on our Google Business profile, and it records all the phone calls that come into the business. And then we're auditing, one by one, each one of those phone calls to make sure they kind of went through like a gated process. And a real quick gate could just be like a 1, 2, 3, right? Hi, my name is. Yes, we can solve your problem, and then we can get you in at 2 p.m. Right? Like you're following some type of process. And if you want to customize that process, then we can customize it. But you're hitting the things right, and so you can kind of give them stats. First of all, Jimmy, the 100 phone calls you got last month, you only answered 90 of them, right? So 10 of them went straight to voicemail. Okay, and that opens up another can of worms. You can do missed call text back with voicemails, right? And like immediately send the customer a text message saying you're going to call them right back. You can do AI receptionists, right? That if Jimmy doesn't answer the phone in 20 seconds, then your AI bot picks up and answers the phone, right? And then he's taking the message and sending it to whoever it needs to go to. So custom tailored solutions for all shop sizes is essentially.
Look, trying to find the inefficiencies and finding a custom solution to fix it.
Sure,
I like that. Yeah.
sure. And they're all kind of like the same problems and the kind of the same solutions. It's just like maybe you're tweaking things here or there, right? So
Like I
like
said, there's no.
everybody needs a review system. Like whether you're doing that through your CRM, no, if you don't do it through your CRM, then you need to have like the NFC cards, the little things up front to put on your cashier stand. It's QR codes like with a business card, and you're stapling it to the invoice. Whatever it is, there's 20 ways you could get Google reviews, but that is the most impactful thing for a business owner right now in local SEO is getting consistent reviews, responding to them, and having like Jimmy replace my transmission, like in whatever city you live in, right? So having the city keyword, the service keyword would be like the perfect review.
The keyword stuffing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then keyword stuff
Oh,
your replies too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. No, there's no problem fixing your transmission. Like
Do you
throw
have any
that in
other
there.
transmission problems in Paso
Yeah,
Robles?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
love
and
it.
and you can see that show up. And the reason I say that, you can see that show up now. You could type in like brake repair, and then your city name, right? And
Hmm.
I guarantee you, one of the GBPs that show up for the brake shop, it'll have like a review snippet, right? That says Jimmy replaced my brakes last week and did such a great job. That's why it's important, is because you have a review snippet that's tailored to their keyword search, and then now it's going to show up on your GBP, and your GBP is going to be ranked higher. So
There's your golden nugget.
there's it all. Reviews. Get more reviews.
Well, Mr. Christian, is it Mosley? Did I say
It's
that right?
Mosley. Yeah.
Christian Mosley. What's the name of the company, or how can someone reach out to you if they're interested in
Yeah,
letting you know?
my agency's Auto Mastery. So automastery.com has an appointment scheduling link to book with me, or you can just find me on Facebook, Christian Mosley. Very active in a bunch of the auto repair groups. So I talk in there constantly, and or you can just send me a DM. So, but automastery.com.
Slide into the DMs.
Slide into them.